I'm Bob Briggia. With me is Senior Master Sergeant L. Hall, one of the many veterans that have decided to locate themselves here in the Black Hills after they retired. And Al, thank you for taking the time to talk to us a little bit about your experiences in the military. I'm going to let everybody know he's an Air Force veteran. So why don't you tell us a bit about your background?
Well, thanks for having me. I joined the Air Force in 1974 in Baltimore, Maryland, and the reason I joined was I wanted to do something different other than the normal day-to-day activities. So when I first signed up, my original job was supposed to be what they call electronics intelligence specialist, but then through the process of security verification, they found out that my mother was not a natural-born U.S. citizen. So they said, you know, you can't go into this particular career field, but since you're signed up as a guaranteed job, you have a choice. You can either stay in and choose another job or get out. I says, I went through basic training. I'm not going to get out. So I said, okay, I'll take another job. And so they said, well, you know, because of your scores and everything, you're more suitable for this particular job. And I looked at it. It was kind of interesting because it was called the Missile Systems Analyst, where I would be working on and around nuclear weapons. And I said, are you sure I can get this job? And they said, yes. So I basically signed up for that and went through my training at Chanute Air Force Base in Illinois, and after training was assigned to Ellsworth Air Force Base. So that was in September of 1975.
And that's when Ellsworth had a missile wing here.
Yes, the 44th Strategic Missile Wing. After my assignment to Ellsworth, I went home on leave, and my folks, especially my mother, asked, what is your job? What are you doing in the Air Force? Because, you know, it's kind of a mystery thing. And I says, I'm working on and around nuclear weapons. And my mother kind of gave me that look, and my father kind of gave me that look, and then I said, well, what's the story? So then my mother tells me the story. My dad also tells me the same thing. What had happened was my mom, who was born in Yokohama, Japan. During World War II, she had family that lived in Hiroshima. And so she went to visit them, and the war was not going good. And so what happened from there, her family, her relatives in Hiroshima said, you probably should go back to your home in Yokohama because the U.S. is probably going to invade Japan. And so she caught the train to go back to Yokohama. And then 4 hours later that day, the Enola Gay dropped the atomic bomb at Hiroshima. It became, you know, personal. I mean, she was understanding, but also she told me, and you know, her feelings were is that dropping of the bomb actually saved lives on both sides. So she was not, you know, harboring any ill feelings to the U.S. from that aspect of it. My father, what makes that interesting too, is my father was on the island of Tinian when they brought the bomb parts in. Circumstances put themselves together. My mother left Hiroshima. My father was on the island of Tinian. During the occupation of Japan, my father was there, and he met my mom, and they got married and had me, and then I look back and said, what would have happened
if your mother would have stayed in Hiroshima
exactly
for 4 more hours?
4 more hours.
That's an incredible story.
Yes. Because of my missile background here at Ellsworth and then also in the cruise missile program in Europe, when the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty was signed, they needed teams to be put together to actually go and do the verification in the former Soviet Union. I was fortunate enough because of my background that I was selected. And so the process is we go as a team of at least 10 people. We go there, our team chief makes a declaration as far as what needs to be inspected, and we go to that particular site and we do the inspection. There's several types of inspection. There's a baseline inspection, which means they're just basically counting how many missiles that the Soviets are saying that they have, and we're verifying that. Then there's the elimination inspection, where we actually sit there and watch them destroy the missiles, the vehicles. This is around 1987, 88? No, 90. That was actually 90. Okay. It was 90. And then after the inspection is completed, our team chief, which is typically either an Army, Air Force, or Marine colonel, they would sign off saying the destruction was done properly, the inspection was completed. Basically, I had the SS-4, which was a missile that was used in the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1963. We eliminated those missiles there. at a site called Lesnaya. And then we had a missile that was really on the forefront for the U.S. was the SS-20. That missile was unique because it had 3 reentry vehicles that could be returned after launch. But at Kapustin Yar, what happens is an example like the SS-20, the 3-warhead missile. They would stack them. They would put explosive charges around them. We would, as an inspector, we would go and verify these missiles according to the serial numbers. And once we were satisfied with it, we would actually leave that site. What happens is there's an observation tower in a safe distance. And then from there, what happens is that as we're inspecting the missile, there are people up there making sure that nobody's pulling a switch or anything. After that, we come back to the observation tower and they detonate it. And I mean, it's like a humongous 4th of July explosion. And then as one of my jobs is to go back out there at the crater to make sure there's nothing there usable. And so we would wear the Russians, or I should say the Soviet chemical warfare suits and masks and everything, and go out to that location, into the crater, look at everything, make sure there's nothing there. And then once we're satisfied, we report back to our team chief at the observation post, and then he or she will then sign off as destruction's complete.
You also mentioned to me earlier about a Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola story that you have that occurred over in the Soviet Union.
We always, when we go over there, we are paired up in the rooms with other American inspectors, something like the 2-man policy. And so what happened is at one inspection, we were out there for a long time in the Soviet Union. I don't want to get in trouble, but I'm not a Pepsi-Cola fan. I'm a Coca-Cola person. And so what happened is that when we got back to the hotel, I was telling my roommate, I says, you know, I'm getting tired of drinking Pepsi. Because all they had was either Pepsi, Fanta, which is an orange drink, or Borjomi, which is a mineral water. And I told my roommate, I says, I'm getting tired of drinking Pepsi. I would give anything for Coca-Cola. And we kind of chuckled about it. So that next morning, our team chief made a short notice declaration, in other words, a surprise inspection. And so the Soviets had to get us at that other site within 9 hours. They got us there, and after we got there, our Soviet counterparts were showing us to our various rooms where we would spend a night or 2 nights there. Well, each room had a refrigerator, and so when I was shown to my room and I opened it up, my refrigerator was full of Russian Coca-Cola. And I thought that was kind of neat. But
because you've been drinking nothing but Pepsi the entire time.
Exactly.
So this one time, now you have a refrigerator with Coca-Cola.
Right. So I took one of the Coca-Colas and I went out in the hallway and I was asking some of the other folks on our team, does anybody else have Coca-Cola in their refrigerator? And nobody else had Coca-Cola.
They all had Pepsi.
They all had Pepsi.
And the moral of the story is?
Watch what you say.
Because when you were talking to your roommate back at this other location,
somebody must have been listening.
Somebody overheard your conversation.
Exactly. And there was nobody else in the room other than myself and my roommate. But one of our escorts that was with us, his name was Andre, and he was at Kapustin Yar. And as we were standing on top of the watchtower just before the detonation of the missiles that were being destroyed, he said to me, every 100 years, the Soviet Union does something really stupid. And I kind of looked at him, and I said, that was kind of interesting that he said that, especially considering where we were. And then looking at what's happening today, it hasn't been 100 years, but there are some dumb things going on. So it's an endless circle. It was an honor to serve my country. I'd do it again in a heartbeat, or half a heartbeat.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, Al. We certainly appreciate it, and thank you again for your service.
Thank you.